The classroom floated in silence above the great council station. Through the wide windows, 100 worlds sparkled like distant jewels. Inside, 30 young aliens sat in curved seats, their eyes fixed on the holographic display at the front. Professor Zelthar stood before them, his blue skin shimmering under the soft lights. He was a Zentari, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he spoke, and his voice carried the weight of centuries. "Today we study a warning from history," he said. "Today we learn about the humans." A collective murmur rippled through the class. Everyone had heard stories about humans. Scary stories. Stories parents told to make children behave. The professor touched the control panel and images filled the air. Creatures with only 2 arms and 2 legs appeared. They had flat faces and strange hair on their heads. They looked weak, almost fragile. 200 years ago, humanity joined our Galactic Council, Zelthar continued. It was a mistake we paid for dearly. The hologram changed. Now it showed humans fighting each other, cities burning, weapons firing, explosions tearing through the air. The students gasped and whispered. Humans were violent, the professor said. They fought constant wars on their home planet. They killed their own kind over resources, beliefs, and land. They were emotional creatures who could not control their aggressive nature. A young Velcrin student named Kira raised her hand. She had silver fur and large green eyes that always seemed to be questioning everything. "Professor, if they were so violent, why did the council let them join?" Zelthar's expression tightened for just a moment. An error in judgment. The council believed humans could be civilized. We were wrong. He showed more images. Humans arguing in council chambers. Humans raising their voices. Humans gesturing wildly with their hands. To the alien students, it looked chaotic and frightening. They disrupted every meeting, the professor explained. They questioned every decision. They refused to follow proper protocols. After only 5 years, the council had no choice. Humanity was exiled for the safety of all civilized species. Threx, a young Korthian with gray scales and sharp teeth, nodded approvingly. His people were warriors who valued order and discipline. They sound dangerous. The council was wise to remove them. But Kira was not satisfied. "Where are they now?" "Quarantined in a distant sector," Zelthar said quickly. "They cannot leave. They cannot threaten us anymore. This is why we study them, to remember the importance of peace and order." The professor continued his lecture, showing more examples of human violence and chaos. He spoke about their primitive emotions, their inability to follow rules, their dangerous unpredictability. The students listened, believing every word. As the lesson neared its end, Zelthar prepared to close the display. "Remember, young ones, the galaxy is safe because the council protects us from—" The hologram flickered. The professor stopped mid-sentence. New text appeared on the display, glowing red. "Classified True Exile Protocols." Zelthar's 4 arms moved frantically over the controls, trying to close the file. But it would not close. The text pulsed, almost taunting him. "Technical error," he said, his voice strained. "Class dismissed. Leave now. Quickly." The students gathered their belongings, confused and curious. As they filed out, Kira glanced back at the display. The professor was still fighting with the controls, and his blue skin had turned a darker shade. He looked worried. No, not worried. He looked scared. Outside in the corridor, Kira's 2 friends caught up with her. Threx and Lys had been in the same study group since their first year. Lys was a Solari, with translucent skin that glowed faintly with her emotions. Right now she was glowing yellow, the color of confusion. "That was strange," she said softly. "Did you see how the professor reacted?" "He looked afraid," Kira said. "Why would a classified file about humans scare him?" Threx crossed his arms. "Maybe it contains information about their weapons. Battle plans. Something dangerous," but Kira shook her head. "Or maybe it contains something the council does not want us to know." The 3 friends looked at each other. They had been taught since childhood to trust the council, to follow the rules, to never question authority. But something felt wrong about today's lesson. "We should leave it alone," Lys said, though her glow flickered with uncertainty. Threx nodded. "Accessing classified files is illegal. We could be expelled. Or worse." Kira bit her lip, thinking. Through the window beside them, she could see the council headquarters in the distance. It looked powerful and eternal, like it had always been there and always would be. "What if they lied to us?" she whispered. "The council does not lie," Threx said automatically. It was what they had all been taught. Then they will not mind if we look, Kira replied. That evening, after the station had grown quiet, 3 young aliens sat in a darkened computer lab. Kira's fingers moved across the console, breaking through security layers she was not supposed to know existed. Threx stood guard at the door. Liss glowed bright orange with nervousness. "This is wrong," Liss said. "We should stop." "Almost there," Kira muttered. The screen flashed. Access granted. The file opened and data flooded the display. Reports, videos, audio logs. Hundreds of classified documents about humanity and their exile. Kira opened the first file. It was a council meeting record from 205 years ago. The debate about whether to accept humanity's application to join. She began to read and her eyes grew wide. "Oh no," she whispered. This is not what the professor said. This is not what they told us at all." Threx and Liss leaned closer to the screen, reading the words that would change everything they believed about the council, about humans, and about the truth. The file described humans not as violent primitives, but as something else entirely. Something the council had feared for very different reasons, and somewhere in the distant dark of space, in a sector marked as forbidden, humanity watched the stars and waited for the day they could return home. The computer screen glowed in the darkness. Kira scrolled through document after document, her heart beating faster with each page. Beside her, Threx and Liss read in stunned silence. The first report was a council assessment from humanity's application period. Kira read it aloud, her voice shaking. Species designation: human. Intelligence level: high. Technology level: adequate. Social structure complex. Recommendation: accept application with standard monitoring. "That sounds normal," Threx said. "Where is the part about violence?" Kira scrolled further. "Wait, there is more. This is from 6 months after humans joined the council." A new document appeared. This one was marked Concern Level Moderate. The report detailed humanity's first months in the council, but it did not describe violence or chaos. Instead, it described something completely different. Humans had attended every council meeting. They had asked questions. Lots of questions. They had wanted to know why certain species had more votes than others, why some worlds received more resources, why decisions were made behind closed doors. "They were just asking questions," Liss said, her glow turning blue with confusion. "How is that dangerous?" Kira found another file. This one was a report from a council elder named Vorsoth. She read it carefully. "The human delegation has proposed several reforms. They suggest equal voting rights for all member species. They recommend public transparency for council decisions. They have distributed literature about democratic governance to other delegations. This is concerning." "Concerning?" Threx repeated. "Why would democracy be concerning?" Kira clicked on another file. This one was a video recording. The hologram showed a council chamber. In the center stood a human woman wearing a simple blue uniform. She had dark skin and kind eyes. The identification tag read, "Ambassador Chen, Earth Representative." "Honored council members," the human said, her voice calm and clear. "I come before you today with a proposal. The Galactic Council has existed for 10,000 years. It has brought peace and stability. But it can be better. It can be fairer." She gestured and data appeared in the air around her. Charts and numbers that showed how resources were distributed among council species. As you can see, 70% of all council resources go to just 5 species. The oldest species, the founding members. Meanwhile, newer members receive minimal support. This is not fair. This is not just... Murmurs rippled through the council chamber in the recording. Some voices sounded angry. Others sounded interested. Ambassador Chen continued. "I propose the Council Reformation Act. Equal representation for all members. Public voting records. Transparent resource distribution. Democratic elections for council leadership. These changes will make us stronger, not weaker." The video ended abruptly. "That did not sound violent," Liss said quietly. "That sounded reasonable." Kira found the next document. It was dated 3 days after Ambassador Chen's speech. Emergency Council Meeting. Subject: the human problem. Discussion: how to handle growing support for human proposals. Her hands trembled as she opened the meeting transcript. Elder Vorsoth spoke first in the recording. 15 species have expressed support for the Human Reformation Act. 15 in just 3 days. If we allow this to continue, the entire power structure of the council will collapse. Another elder responded. The humans are clever. They do not threaten us with weapons. They threaten us with ideas. Ideas spread like disease. Already, younger species are questioning our authority. A third voice joined. We have maintained order in this galaxy for 10 millennia. We cannot allow these primitives to destroy everything we have built. The council must act. Kira paused the recording. She looked at her friends. Threx's scales had darkened with shock. Liss was glowing purple, the color of fear and confusion. They were afraid, Kira whispered. The council was afraid of humans not because they were violent, but because they were changing things. She clicked to the next file. This one was titled, Project Exile Strategic Planning. The document laid out a plan. A detailed, calculated plan. The council would manufacture evidence of human aggression. They would stage incidents. They would spread propaganda. They would turn the galaxy against humanity. Kira found video files, recordings that had been edited. In one, a human diplomat arguing passionately with a council member. But the audio had been changed. The words were different, made to sound threatening, made to sound violent. Another file showed human ships near a mining colony. The report claimed humans were planning an attack. But the original, unedited report told a different story. The humans had responded to a distress call. They had saved the colony from asteroid impacts. They lied, Threx said, his voice hollow. The council lied about everything. Kira scrolled faster now, finding more and more evidence. Reports from species who had worked with humans. All of them spoke of human kindness, human creativity, human generosity. But these reports had been buried, hidden, classified. She found testimony from a Velcrin ambassador who had served 200 years ago. The humans taught us something we had forgotten. They taught us that we could question authority, that we deserved to have a voice. After meeting them, our people demanded rights we never knew we could have. The council fears this. They fear a galaxy where they cannot control everything. Liss was crying now, tears glowing softly as they fell. Why would they do this? Why would they lie to us for 200 years? Kira found one more file. It was audio only. The voice belonged to Elder Vorsoth, recorded in his final days before death. The old alien's voice was weak and filled with regret. I am dying, and I will die carrying the weight of what we did. The humans were not violent. They were not dangerous. They were inspiring, and that was the problem. Everywhere they went, people started thinking for themselves, started wanting freedom, started demanding change. We could not control them, and worse, we could not control anyone they touched. So we exiled them. We told the galaxy they were monsters, and the galaxy believed us. May forgiveness find us, though we do not deserve it. The recording ended. The three friends sat in silence. Everything they had been taught was a lie. The council they had trusted had built its power on deception and fear. Suddenly, the computer screen flashed red. A warning message appeared. Unauthorized access detected, security alert activated, location tracked. Kira jumped up. We need to go now. They ran for the door, but it was too late. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Security forces were coming. Threx grabbed Kira's arm. What do we do? Kira looked at the computer screen, still glowing with the truth about humanity. The truth the council had buried for 2 centuries. Then she made a decision. Liss, can you copy these files? Liss nodded, her hands already moving. I can send them to my personal storage, but it will take 30 seconds. Do it, Kira said. The footsteps grew closer. 20 seconds, 15, 10. The files finished copying just as the door burst open. 6 security officers rushed in, weapons drawn. Behind them stood someone Kira did not expect to see. Professor Zelthar looked at his students with his forearms raised. But he was not pointing at them. He was pointing at the security officers. Stop, the professor said firmly. Lower your weapons. These students are under my protection. The lead officer hesitated. Professor, they accessed classified files. We must arrest them. Zelthar stepped between the officer and the students. His voice was strong, commanding. No, you will not. But Professor, I said no. Zelthar's skin darkened to deep blue. I am invoking academic sanctuary. These students are conducting authorized research under my supervision. You have no authority here. It was a lie. Everyone in the room knew it. But the security officers hesitated. Zelthar was a respected elder. His word carried weight. Leave now, the professor commanded. I will handle this matter personally. The officers looked at each other, uncertain. Finally, they lowered their weapons and left. When the door closed, Zelthar turned to face his students. Kira expected anger. Instead, she saw something else in his eyes. She saw sadness. And she saw understanding. Come with me, he said quietly. It is time you learned what I should have taught you in the first place. It is time you learned the real truth about humans, and about the council you serve. Professor Zelthar led the 3 students through empty corridors. The station had grown quiet in the late hours. Their footsteps echoed against metal walls as they walked deeper into the academic section. They reached a small office tucked away in a forgotten corner. Zelthar locked the door behind them and activated a privacy field. A soft hum filled the air, blocking all listening devices. Sit, he said, gesturing to chairs that appeared from the walls. The students sat. Kira, Threx, and Lys looked at their professor with new eyes. They did not know if they could trust him. They did not know if they could trust anyone anymore. Zelthar moved to a wall panel and pressed his hand against it. A hidden compartment opened, revealing an old data storage device. He connected it to a display and new images appeared in the air. What you discovered tonight is true, he said softly. The council lied about humanity. They lied about the exile. They have been lying for 200 years. You knew? Kira asked, her voice sharp with betrayal. You knew and you still taught us those lies? The professor's skin dimmed to a pale blue. Yes, I knew. And I taught what they ordered me to teach. Because I was afraid. Because I was a coward. He touched the display and an old photograph appeared. It showed a younger Zelthar standing beside a human woman. Both were smiling. The woman was Ambassador Chen, the same human from the video they had seen. I met her when I was young, Zelthar said. I was assigned to guide the human delegation during their first weeks in the council. I was supposed to watch them, report on them. Instead, they became my friends. He smiled sadly at the memory. Humans are remarkable, not because they are strong or violent, but because they are infectious. Their hope spreads. Their courage inspires. Within weeks of knowing them, I found myself questioning things I had never questioned before. Why did the council operate in secret? Why did some species have more power than others? Why did we accept inequality as normal? Lys's glow softened to gentle yellow. What happened to her? To Ambassador Chen? She was killed, Zelthar said quietly. The council claimed it was an accident. A ship malfunction. But I have seen the maintenance records. Her ship was sabotaged, the students gasped. Zelthar continued, pulling up more files. The council did not just exile humanity. They executed their leaders first. Ambassador Chen, Captain Rodriguez, Dr. Okafor, all the humans who had the most influence, who had built the most connections with other species. Gone. Then they exiled the rest and called it mercy. But why? Threx demanded. If humans were inspiring, if they were making things better, why destroy them? The professor looked at the young Korthian. Because better for the people meant worse for the powerful. The council is not a democracy, Threx. It never was. It is an oligarchy. 5 ancient species control everything. They have controlled it for 10,000 years, and humans threaten to end that control. He pulled up a new document. Humans have a concept they call mimetic transfer. It means ideas that spread from mind to mind like living things. Human philosophy was mimetically contagious. Everywhere humans went, freedom followed. Independence followed. Revolution followed. The display showed star maps, dozens of worlds highlighted in different colors. Before humans arrived, there had not been a single democratic movement in council space for 3,000 years. Within 5 years of human arrival, 17 species had demanded democratic reforms. 42 worlds had protests against council authority. The entire structure was cracking. So they removed the humans and blamed them for everything, Kira said, understanding flooding through her. Exactly, Zelthar confirmed. They painted humans as violent and dangerous. They showed edited videos and false reports. They made the galaxy afraid. And afraid people do not ask questions. They obey. Lys was crying again. This is horrible. All those years humans have been alone, exiled for teaching people to be free. Not just exiled, Zelthar said grimly. Quarantined. The council did not just send them away. They trapped them. He pulled up a new map. It showed a region of space circled in red. Inside were several dozen star systems. This is the human sector. Humans were sent here with their basic ships and told they could never leave. The Council established an invisible barrier. Any ship trying to cross it would be destroyed automatically. No warnings. No mercy. That is a prison, Threx said, his scales darkening with anger. The Council turned an entire sector into a prison. Yes, Zelthar agreed. And the Council has been watching them ever since. Monitoring them. Studying them. Afraid of what they might become. He pulled up surveillance reports. These are classified documents from the Council's Observation Division. They have been spying on humanity for 2 centuries. Kira leaned forward, reading the reports. They described human colonies spreading through the quarantine zone. Humans building new worlds, creating new technologies, forming communities based on cooperation and mutual aid. They do not have a central government, she read aloud. Humans organize in free associations. Each colony governs itself. They share resources voluntarily. They have no armies, only defensive forces. Crime rates are minimal. Innovation rates are exceptional. Another report caught her eye. This one is from 3 months ago. It says humans have developed faster than light technology that surpasses Council ships by 40%. They have medical treatments we do not possess. They have artificial intelligence that is actually intelligent, not just programmed. They have been alone for 200 years, Liz said softly, and they have become more advanced than us. Zelthar nodded. Because they were free to think, free to experiment, free to fail and try again. The Council rules by control and tradition. Humans rule by freedom and innovation always wins eventually. Threx stood up, pacing the small room. So what happens now? Do we just let the Council keep lying? Do we pretend we never learned the truth? We cannot, Kira said firmly. The galaxy deserves to know what really happened. If you try to expose this, they will silence you, Zelthar warned. The same way they silenced Ambassador Chen. The Council does not allow threats to its power. Then what do we do? Liz asked. Before anyone could answer, an alarm screamed through the station. Red lights flashed. A voice boomed from every speaker. Emergency alert. All personnel to designated safe zones. Unidentified vessels detected approaching the station. Multiple contacts. Unknown classification. Zelthar rushed to the display and pulled up external cameras. His 4 arms froze in mid-motion. His skin went completely white with shock. By the ancient stars, he whispered. The students crowded around the display. Outside the station, in the vast darkness of space, ships were appearing. Dozens of ships. Hundreds of ships. All of them sleek and powerful, with designs unlike anything the Council had ever built. What are those? Threx asked. Zelthar's voice was barely a whisper. Those are human ships. Humans have broken the quarantine. The display zoomed in on the lead vessel. It was massive, painted in white and blue. On its hull, in letters large enough to be seen from kilometers away, was written, Earth Diplomatic Fleet. A communication channel opened. Every screen in the station, in the Council headquarters, across the entire galactic network, suddenly showed the same thing. A human woman appeared. She had dark skin, silver hair, and eyes that held both strength and kindness. She wore a uniform marked with symbols of peace and unity. Behind her, dozens of other humans stood at stations working calmly and efficiently. Greetings to the Galactic Council, the woman said, her voice clear and strong. My name is Captain Okoye of Earth. 200 years ago you exiled my people. You lied about who we were and what we stood for. You imprisoned us in darkness, hoping we would fade away and be forgotten. She smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was a smile of hope. But humans do not fade. We do not forget. And we do not forgive injustice. We have come home. Not to conquer. Not to destroy. But to speak. To tell our truth. To offer the galaxy what you tried to take away. Captain Okoye leaned forward, and her next words echoed across 1,000 worlds. We have come to offer freedom, and this time the whole galaxy will hear us. The transmission ended. In Zelthar's office, 4 beings stood in stunned silence. Outside, alarms continued to blare. The Council was panicking. Security forces were mobilizing. Ancient powers were scrambling to respond to something they had feared for 2 centuries. Humanity had returned. And this time, they were not asking for permission. Kira looked at her professor, then at her friends. She saw fear in their eyes. But she also saw something else. Something she had never seen before. She saw hope. It is time, she said quietly. Time to choose a side. Time to decide what kind of galaxy we want to live in. Threx nodded slowly. Lys glowed bright white, the color of determination. Zelthar looked at his students and smiled. Then let us choose wisely. Let us choose freedom. Outside, the human fleet waited. Inside, a revolution was beginning. And at the center of it all, 3 young students and 1 old professor prepared to change their galaxy forever. The council emergency chamber erupted in chaos. Holographic projections of council elders filled the room, each one shouting over the others. Some demanded immediate military action. Others counseled patience. All of them were afraid. Elder Vorsoth IV, descendant of the elder who had orchestrated the original exile, slammed his appendage on the table. Destroy them. Activate all defense platforms. We cannot allow humans to speak to the public. Another elder, a crystalline named Shard Voice, flickered with agitation. If we attack without provocation, we prove their accusations true. The galaxy is watching. We must be careful. The galaxy is watching lies, Vorsoth shouted. Humans are manipulators. They twist words and corrupt minds. We must silence them before they poison another generation. But it was already too late for silence. In Zelthar's office, Kira made a decision that would change everything. She looked at the data storage device that Lys had copied. All the files, all the evidence, all the truth the council had buried for 2 centuries. We have to release these, she said. Right now, before the council can stop us, Zelthar hesitated. If you do this, you cannot take it back. The council will hunt you. Your families may suffer. Your futures will be destroyed. Kira looked at her friends. Threk stood tall despite his fear. Lys glowed with nervous determination. They all knew what this choice meant. Some things are more important than safety, Kira said. Some things are more important than our futures. The truth is one of those things. Threx nodded. My people value honor above all else. There is no honor in silence when lies rule. I stand with you. Lys's glow brightened. The Solari can feel emotions across distances. I can feel the galaxy right now. Everyone is confused. Everyone is afraid. They need to know the truth. I stand with you too. Zelthar looked at his students. These young beings who had learned more in one night than in years of education. They were brave in a way he had never been. They reminded him of the humans he had known so long ago. Then I will help you, he said, but we must do it right. We cannot just release files. We must tell a story. The galaxy must understand not just what happened, but why it matters. He pulled up the station's communication system. I have access to the academic broadcast network. It reaches every school, every university, every learning institution in council space. Billions of young minds all connected. If we broadcast through that network, the council cannot stop it without shutting down education across the galaxy. Will that work? Lys asked. It will work once, Zelthar said. After that, they will lock me out and probably lock me up. But once is all we need. Kira connected the data storage to the broadcast system. How do we tell the story? Simply, Zelthar said. We show them what we found. We let the evidence speak for itself, and we ask them to think, to question, to decide for themselves. His 4 hands moved across the controls. I am initiating a mandatory educational broadcast. Every student in council space will see this. Every teacher. Every parent watching with their children. Ready? The 3 students looked at each other and nodded. Ready, Kira said. Zelthar activated the broadcast. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. In classrooms on 1,000 worlds, students looked up from their lessons. In homes, families gathered around displays. In public spaces, crowds stopped to watch. Professor Zelthar appeared on every screen. Behind him stood 3 young students. My name is Professor Zelthar, he began. For 60 years I have taught history at the Galactic Academy. For 60 years I have taught lies. Today I teach truth. He stepped aside and the first document appeared. The real council assessment of humanity from 200 years ago. Not the violent primitives of propaganda, but intelligent beings who ask difficult questions. This is what the council actually said about humans when they joined. Zelthar explained. They were not monsters. They were not dangerous. They were curious. They were innovative. They believed in freedom and equality. More documents appeared. Ambassador Chen's speech. The council's fear of human ideas. The manufactured evidence. The edited videos. All of it laid bare for the galaxy to see. Kira stepped forward. My name is Kira. I'm a student. 3 hours ago I believed what you all believe, that humans were exiled because they were violent. But that was a lie. Humans were exiled because they inspired others to question authority. Threx spoke next. I am Threx, my people are warriors. We value strength. I thought humans were weak because they were exiled. I was wrong. It takes more strength to fight for freedom than to fight with weapons. Lys's voice was soft but clear.
I am Lys. I can feel emotions.
Right now I feel the galaxy's confusion, but I also feel something else. I feel hope, because truth sets us free. They showed Elder Vorsoth's deathbed confession. They showed the surveillance reports of human progress in the quarantine zone. They showed how humans had thrived in isolation, building a society based on cooperation rather than control. And they showed something else. Something the Council had hidden even from most of its own members. This is the kill switch, Zelthar said, pulling up classified military files. The Council placed automated weapons platforms around the human quarantine zone. Any ship trying to leave would be destroyed instantly. No trial, no warning, no mercy. The Council did not just exile humans. They imprisoned them, and they would have killed them if they tried to escape. Gasps echoed across 1 billion worlds. But humans are here now, Kira said. Their fleet is outside this station. They broke through the quarantine. They came home, and the Council must decide how to respond. She looked directly into the camera, but so must we, all of us, every being watching this. We must decide what kind of galaxy we want to live in. Do we want to live in fear, controlled by ancient powers who lie to maintain their rule? Or do we want to live in freedom, where every voice matters and truth is sacred? The broadcast showed Captain Okoye's message again. The human woman's face filled every screen. We have come to offer freedom, the captain said, and this time the whole galaxy will hear us. Zelthar spoke one last time. The Council will try to shut down this broadcast. They will say we are traitors. They will say humans are manipulating us. They will do anything to make you afraid. But ask yourself this. If humans are the dangerous ones, why is the Council so afraid of you hearing the truth? The broadcast ended. For 3 seconds, the galaxy was silent. Then everything exploded at once. Messages flooded every communication network. Students demanded answers from their teachers. Citizens demanded answers from their governments. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their voices. On the Council station, security forces rushed toward Zelthar's office. But they found the corridors blocked by students. Hundreds of young beings from dozens of species standing together, refusing to let them pass. No more lies, they chanted. No more secrets. Let them speak. On the homeworld of the Velkrin, Kira's people poured into the streets. They had seen their daughter speak truth to power. They were proud. They were inspired. They were angry at the lies. On the Korthian military worlds, generals watched in shock as their own soldiers began to question orders. If humans were not the enemy, who were they really fighting for? On the Solari colony worlds, empaths felt the emotional wave sweeping across the galaxy. Hope, anger, confusion, determination, all of it building into something unprecedented. In the Council emergency chamber, the elders watched their power crumbling in real time. This is a disaster, Shard voice said. The people are turning against us. Silence them, Vorsoth demanded. Arrest the students. Shut down the academic networks. Declare martial law. But another elder, an ancient being named Whisper of Ages, spoke quietly. No, that time has passed. If we use force now, we prove everything the humans said about us. We prove we rule through fear, not consent. Then what do you suggest? Vorsoth snapped. I suggest we listen, Whisper of Ages said. For the first time in 10,000 years, I suggest we actually listen to what our people want. Outside the station, the human fleet maintained its position. They had not fired a single weapon. They had not made a single threat. They simply waited, their presence a silent challenge to everything the Council represented. Captain Okoye stood on her bridge, watching the chaos unfold across Council space. Her communications officer looked up. Captain, we are receiving thousands of messages, millions. Species from across the galaxy are reaching out. Some are thanking us. Some are asking questions. Some are requesting our help in demanding reforms from their governments. Okoye smiled.
And so it begins.
200 years we waited for this moment. Not the moment we return, but the moment the galaxy wakes up and realizes they can be free. Her first officer, a man named Chen, grandson of Ambassador Chen who had been murdered 2 centuries ago, stepped forward. Orders, Captain? We wait, Okoye said. We let the truth do its work. We gave them the spark. Now we watch it become a fire. Back in Zelthar's office, the 4 revolutionaries waited as security forces pounded on the door. The privacy field held, but it would not hold forever. What happens now? Thais asked. Now, Kira said, we face the consequences of telling the truth. Whatever those consequences may be. The door burst open. Security forces flooded in, but they hesitated when they saw the 4 beings standing calmly, waiting. Come quietly, the lead officer said. The council demands your presence. We will come, Zelthar said, but not quietly, never quietly again. As they were led through the corridors, they saw something that made them smile. Other students lined the halls. Teachers stood beside them. Workers and families joined them. All watching, all silent, all showing solidarity with 4 beings who had dared to speak truth. The revolution had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The council chamber had never seen anything like this before. For 10,000 years, only council elders had stood in this sacred space. Now it was filled with others. Kira, Threx, Lys, and Professor Zelthar stood in the center. Around them, security forces formed a nervous perimeter. Above them, holographic projections of the council elders looked down with faces showing fear, anger, and for some, resignation. But they were not alone. Outside the chamber, thousands had gathered. Students, workers, citizens from dozens of species. They filled the corridors and observation decks, watching through windows and screens. The council had wanted a private trial. The galaxy had demanded a public one. Elder Vorsoth spoke first, his voice hard with barely controlled rage. You 4 stand accused of treason, of accessing classified information, of spreading lies and inciting rebellion. How do you plead? Kira stepped forward. Her voice did not shake. We plead truth. Everything we broadcast was real. Everything came from your own files. If showing the galaxy your own words is treason, then your government is built on lies. You do not understand the complexity of governing, Vorsoth shouted. The council maintains order across thousands of worlds. We cannot allow chaos. You call freedom chaos, Threx said, his voice deep and strong. You call justice rebellion. You call truth lies. But we understand perfectly. You do not govern for the people. You govern for yourselves. Whisper of Ages, the ancient elder who had counseled patience, raised an appendage for silence. Perhaps we should hear what the people think. Since they are all watching, Vorsoth glared at Whisper of Ages. This is not a democracy. Perhaps, the ancient elder said softly. That is the problem. Outside the chamber, someone started chanting. Then another. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The sound echoed through the station. Let them speak. Let them speak. Let them speak. Shardvoice, the crystalline elder, flickered with distress. This is unprecedented. The people have never demanded audience before. Because we never gave them reason to believe they could, Whisper of Ages replied. But the humans gave them that reason. And now we must face what we created. The chamber doors opened. No one had ordered them to open. The security system had been overridden. A figure walked through, flanked by 2 human officers. Captain Okoye entered the council chamber. She wore no weapons. She carried no threats. She simply walked forward with quiet confidence until she stood beside the 4 accused. I am Captain Okoye of Earth, she said. I claim the right to speak in defense of these 4 beings. You have no rights here. Vorsoth snarled. Humans are exiled. You are forbidden from council space. Then arrest me, Okoye said calmly. Arrest all of us. Show the galaxy watching that you rule by force, not law. Or let me speak, and show that you still have some honor left. The council elders looked at each other. Outside, the chanting grew louder. Species from across the galaxy were watching this moment. History was being written in real time. Whisper of Ages gestured. Let her speak. Okoye bowed respectfully. Thank you. I will be brief. 200 years ago, my ancestor, Ambassador Chen, stood in a chamber like this one. She proposed reforms. Democratic representation. Equal rights. Transparent governance. Simple ideas. Good ideas. And you killed her for them. Gasps echoed through the watching crowds. You killed her and others like her. Then you exiled the rest of us and told the galaxy we were monsters. You edited our words. You fabricated our crimes. You built your power on our graves and your lies. She walked slowly around the chamber, her voice carrying to every listener across the galaxy. But lies have a weakness. They cannot survive truth. And the truth is this: humans are not special. We are not chosen. We are not superior. We simply believe that all beings deserve freedom, that all voices deserve to be heard. That power belongs to the people, not to ancient oligarchs who hoard it like treasures. She stopped and looked directly at Elder Vorsoth. You were right to fear us. Not because we are violent, but because we teach others to be free. And free people do not kneel to tyrants. Tyrants? Vorsoth's voice was dangerous. We brought peace to the galaxy. We ended the wars. We created stability. You created control, Okoye corrected. And you called it peace. You created submission and called it stability. But peace without freedom is just another word for prison. Whisper of Ages spoke again. What would you have us do, Captain? Dissolve the council? Allow chaos to reign? We have governed for 10 millennia. Yes, Okoye said. You have. And in those 10 millennia, how many new species have joined the council? How many reforms have you allowed? How many times have the people's voices changed your decisions? Silence. You have ruled for 10,000 years, Okoye continued. But you have not grown. You have not adapted. You have not changed. You are ancient in the worst way. Rigid, afraid, clinging to power because it is all you know. She turned to address not the council, but the cameras broadcasting to the galaxy. People of the Galactic Council, you have lived under this system your entire lives. Your parents did. Your grandparents did. For so long that you forgot it could be different. But it can be. It should be. You deserve representatives who answer to you, not themselves. You deserve transparent laws, not secret decisions. You deserve to build your own futures, not have them dictated from above. Kira stepped forward to stand beside Okoye. She is right. I grew up believing the council was perfect. That questioning it was wrong. But the only thing wrong was that we never questioned it at all. Threx joined them. My people follow strength. I thought the council was strong. But true strength is not controlling others. True strength is empowering them. Liz added her voice. I feel the emotions of the galaxy right now. Billions of beings, all feeling the same thing for the first time in millennia. They feel hope. They feel possibility. They feel alive. Professor Zelthar stood with them. I am old. I wasted my life teaching lies because I was afraid to teach truth. But these young ones are brave where I was cowardly. And they are right where I was wrong. The galaxy deserves better than what we have given them. Outside, the chanting changed. New words echoed through the station and across the communication networks. New council. New council. New council. Elder Vorsoth stood abruptly. This is madness. I will not stand here and watch everything we built be destroyed by primitives and children. But other elders were not standing with him. Shard voice had dimmed to a contemplative glow. Whisper of Ages looked thoughtful. Others showed uncertainty where once there had been only confidence. Perhaps, Whisper of Ages said slowly, it is not being destroyed. Perhaps it is evolving. As all things must or die, a new voice spoke. It came from the observation deck above. A Velcrin elder, leader of Kira's people. I invoke the right of petition, she called out. My people demand council reforms. We formally request democratic representation. Another voice joined from a different deck. A Korthian general. The Korthian clan second this petition. We demand transparent governance. More voices. A Solari diplomat. A Zentari professor. An engineer from a species so small they had never spoken in council before. One by one, representatives from across the galaxy added their voices. The council was fracturing. Not through war. Not through violence. Through words. Through truth. Through the simple, powerful act of beings deciding they deserved better. Vorsoth looked around in horror. You are all traitors. All of you! No, Whisper of Ages said gently. They are patriots. They love this galaxy enough to want to fix it. That is not treason. That is hope. The ancient elder turned to face Captain Okoye. What would humanity propose? If we were to reform the council, what would you suggest? Okoye smiled. We would suggest you ask them. She gestured to the crowds, to the cameras, to the billions watching. Ask the people what they want. Let them vote. Let them decide. It is their galaxy too. That would take time, Shard voice said. Organization, planning, then we begin, Whisper of Ages said. Today, now we announce a galactic convention. Every species sends representatives, not appointed by us but chosen by their people. We write a new charter together, one that serves everyone, not just the ancient and powerful. Forsoth made a sound of disgust. You are destroying 10,000 years of tradition. Good, Whisper of Ages replied. Some traditions deserve to die. The ancient elder looked at Kira and her friends. You four began this revolution. Will you help us finish it? Kira looked at her friends. They nodded. Yes, she said. But not just us, everyone, every voice. Every being who wants to build something better. 3 months later, the first Galactic Convention opened. Not in the Council's chambers, but in a new space. A vast amphitheater built specifically for this purpose, where every seat was equal and every voice could be heard. Representatives from 3,000 species attended. Some were old council members, humbled and ready to change. Some were young revolutionaries like Kira. Some were humans, finally home after 200 years of exile. Captain Okoye stood beside Chen's grandson, watching the proceedings. Your grandmother would be proud, she said. Our grandmother, Chen corrected with a smile. She belongs to all of us now, everyone who believes in freedom. The convention lasted 6 months. There were arguments, disagreements, passionate debates, but no violence, no coercion, just beings talking, listening, and building something new together. When the new Galactic Charter was finally written, it contained principles that had been radical 200 years ago but were now embraced by billions. Equal representation for all member species, democratic elections for all leadership positions, transparent decision-making processes, protection of individual rights and freedoms, peaceful conflict resolution, shared resources based on need. Not power, the old council was dissolved. Elder Vorsoth and a few others who refused to change were removed from power peacefully. They retired to quiet worlds, their names recorded in history as warnings, not heroes. Whisper of Ages became the first elected chancellor of the new Galactic Council. In an acceptance speech, the ancient being said, I am old. I represent the past, but I will use what time I have left to build the future these young ones deserve. Kira, Threx, and Liss returned to their studies. But now they studied in classrooms where questions were encouraged, not forbidden, where history was truth, not propaganda, where young beings learned that change was possible because they had helped create it. Professor Zelthar continued teaching. But now he taught real history, the mistakes and the triumphs, the lies and the truths, and every year, on the anniversary of the broadcast that changed everything, he told his students about 4 beings who refused to accept lies, and how they helped free a galaxy. Years later, Kira stood in that same classroom as a guest lecturer. She was older now, a respected diplomat who had helped negotiate treaties between dozens of species. A young student raised her hand. Ambassador Kira, were you scared that night? When you decided to broadcast the truth? Kira smiled, terrified. But I learned something from humans that night. I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what is right even when you are afraid, and that lesson is worth more than any amount of safety. Another student asked, What happened to the humans? Are they still here? Yes, Kira said. Humans are here, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as partners, as friends, as equals. They taught us that freedom is not given. It is taken by those brave enough to demand it. And they taught us that the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is not a gun or a bomb. It is an idea whose time has come. She looked at the young faces before her, different species, different worlds, all of them learning together in a galaxy that was finally free. The humans were exiled for inspiring freedom, Kira said. And now, 200 years later, we are all free because of what they inspired. That is their legacy. That is their gift to us. And it is a gift we must protect and share with every generation. The classroom was silent. Then one student began to clap. Then another. Then all of them. A mixture of species and sounds, creating a symphony of appreciation that echoed through the halls of learning. Kira smiled. This was the galaxy humans had dreamed of. Not ruled by the strong, but guided by the wise. Not controlled by the few, but governed by the many. Not perfect, but always striving to be better. And somewhere out there on Earth, in the blue-green world that had given birth to a species that refused to be silenced, children learned the same lessons. That freedom matters. That truth matters. That every voice deserves to be heard. The galaxy had learned the real reason humans were exiled, and in learning it they had become free. The end.